Hey everybody, welcome to Believe It or Not.
And we just wanted to let you know that this is a bit of a content warning.
Yes, we're going to swear.
Sometimes,
and sometimes we don't know what we're talking about, or we did very little research.
We don't know what's going on.
But it's fun, it's interesting, we're educating ourselves and trying to bring you along for the ride.
And guess what? You're allowed to disagree. We're allowed to disagree. We have our opinions. You have yours. Mm-hmm. That's healthy.
That's healthy.
Why don't we talk about it?
And maybe rate us on iTunes. Tell your friends about us. It's up to you. I don't care.
Start a dialogue.
Yeah.
With 5 stars.
5 stars. Thanks, everyone. You're the best.
I got hymns here. Get him while they're holy. Fresh from God's brain to your mouth.
He's God here in this radio station. Smite me! Almighty smiter!
The Bible is black and white.
I have such doubts.
Get out of here, devil!
I'm a god. I'm not the god. I don't think.
And you will know my name is the Lord!
We're on a mission from God.
Hey everybody, welcome to Believe It or Not.
How's everyone doing today? I'm Damien.
I'm Trevor.
And this is our first video.
It's our first video, so some of you are just listening to this thinking, oh, it's just another podcast.
Yep.
And then, but also we're recording it on video, so you can watch that down at youtube.com.
Now you know what we look like.
Yeah. Apparently this is what we look like.
Yep. Every day.
So, every day. Let's get a little spooky. It's Halloween.
Oh, it is?
It's Halloween time right now.
All right.
Doesn't feel like it for you and me.
No,
it feels
not
a little
at all.
warm in this.
It's a little toasty,
apartment,
yeah.
But yeah, it is literally Halloween right now. Well, I'm sure it's in a couple days. But
pretty close.
Yeah, close enough.
A roundabout.
Close enough. Now, on another podcast that you're involved in,
yes.
Sometimes things get really spooky, and sometimes people are asked if they've ever seen a ghost. So I thought I would extend that to you today. Have you ever seen a ghost?
No, I have never seen a ghost ever.
Okay.
That is correct. I do another podcast called Spooked. And we tell that's it. You've been there.
Yeah.
So if you like that kind of stuff, listen to that. And we do ask that. I don't believe in ghosts. I don't think there's any evidence for it. And every ghost story I've ever heard brings me no closer to even coming close to thinking there could be a possibility.
Yeah, it's true. Same. Yeah, it's funny. Like, I definitely at one point in my life believed in ghosts. Mm-hmm. I went on a ghost hunting trip once with my friend. We're like, let's see if we can find some ghosts tonight. It was in the middle of the night, and when I lived in Calgary, and like my first year there, and we tried to find ghosts in our Bible college. You're not supposed to believe in ghosts and go to Bible college, but
I guess not.
Convinced myself, and then I was like, wait, this isn't right, and then I didn't believe in ghosts. Also, I've told this story on Spooked, but when I was younger, me and a number of my family members would see these like bright lights flying overhead, and it turns out probably carbon monoxide.
Oh, well, that's nice.
Yeah.
Carbon monoxide poisoning.
Yeah. And actually, that's a nice segue into this because we're talking about the 1800s. Mm-hmm. And as, people are using gas and stuff, sometimes there is some carbon monoxide poisoning. Sometimes you start seeing things, and that helps with another trend that was happening at the same time, which was spiritualism.
Makes sense.
So you got your mindset that there's going to be ghosts, and then you see something in your house, and all of a sudden there's confirmation, and you believe that there's ghosts.
It's a very self-fulfilling prophecy there.
Yeah, exactly. So we're going to talk about spiritualism.
My thing about like seeing ghosts and spirits is that they're always very lame stories.
Yeah.
That people try and make, so scary and exciting. It's like, no, you saw nothing happened.
Yeah, exactly.
We're like, the cupboard's all opened. Like, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. How does that? Okay. It's all dumb. I think it's dumb.
Yeah.
I'm gonna preface it. This is purely my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like, don't you have anything better to do than rearrange my furniture right now?
I mean, unless they do a nice job.
That's true.
I mean, if it's like an interior designer ghost.
The ghost of an interior designer. That makes sense.
That would be good.
Yeah. And then you don't have to pay them. People that come over, they're like, man, your house is like well put together. It's like, yeah, it's the ghost.
I think that'd be a funny premise about an interior design ghost, and the only payment they get is that they have to haunt you for a while.
Yeah.
It's like, listen, I'm going to haunt your place for a few years, but I'll make it look nice.
Yeah.
Like, well, I guess that's okay.
You're going to hear me crying in the middle of the night, but it pays off in the long run.
And you just have like a dinner party and like, who's that? It's like, oh, that's the ghost who redesigned our apartment.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so I'm going to take up my trusty tablet here. It's more like a Chromebook.
Oh, like Moses had.
Like Moses had. So we've established ghosts are real. Okay. So spiritualism kind of came out of the same area as a number of other kind of religious movements, and that's upstate New York or the Burnover District. So basically, like,
why was it called the Burnover District?
I don't remember, but let's have a quick look. Why is it called the Burnover District? The Burned Over District is the western and central region of New York in the early 19th century where religious revivals and reformation of new religious movements of the Second Great Awakening took place. The term was coined by Charles Grandison Finney, who in his 1876 book autobiography referred to Burnt District to denote an area in central and western New York state. Found that the region of the county there had been a few years previously wild.
Come on, Trev. I need the elevator pitch.
Elevator pitch. I don't know. A lot of burnt things happen.
Like fire burning, or just like
it's like
spiritual
the
burning.
There had been
Or...
a few years of wild excitement passing through the region, which they called revival of the region, which turned out to be spurious. It was reported as having been a very extravagant, exciting, and resulted in reactions so extensive. This is like...
All right, so if anybody out there knows what they mean by was it the burned over district or whatever, give us like a concise like 2-sentence thing.
Yeah. So, but basically, it's Rochester, New York, that kind of area, you know.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
Okay.
So, so there was one of the big influences was the writing of a guy named Emanuel Swedenborg. Great name. He claimed to communicate with the spirits while awake, and he kind of claimed that there was like different levels of the afterlife. It wasn't just heaven and hell. There was like levels of hell, levels of heaven, and then like the spirits kind of met in the middle.
Like first floor.
Yeah.
The mezzanine.
Yeah.
And then you have, I don't know, the food court in the basement.
Yeah. Yeah. They should... You'd think that the dungeon would be in the basement and then the food court.
Well, there might be a sub-basement below that where the dungeon is.
Yeah. Yeah.
And where the Cinnabon is.
And then that makes sense.
Yeah.
And then there was another fellow, name of Meisner, Meisner is the acting guy.
The acting dude.
Mesmer.
Like mesmerize.
Yeah, that's where the term came from.
You mentioned that before.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah, he kind of invented hypnotism, but he had a less religious view of it, and more like he just saw that there was spirit. He thought there were spirits and stuff, and like you needed kind of the flow of your body to align. So he would use hypnotism to try to get like the flow of the spirits to align to like. Yeah. Fix diseases and things like that. He would also do things like feed you liquid that had iron in it, lots of iron, and then rub magnets all over you, and that was supposed to align kind of your flow and your animal magnetism is what he would call
like when you're like really good with the ladies.
Yeah.
How do you think he would feel now, knowing that most hypnotists use hypnotism to make people do dumb things on stage?
I think he did some of that. I read some
like
of
those
some
rated
of it.
R hypnotists who make you pretend like you're holding a wiener.
Yeah. You know, most of that's like just people playing along because they don't want to look stupid.
Yeah, I know. I've heard a lot of it's just like suggestive listening kind of thing, where they become particularly susceptible to suggestibility. Yeah. And then they think, oh, I'm hypnotized. Yeah. But you're not.
Yeah. When I was in high school, there was a hypnotist that came to our school, and like we were upset about it, and like the Christian kids were upset because they thought it was like we actually thought hypnotism used demons. Yeah,
that'd be much more interesting if they used demons.
Yeah, that would be. But yeah, I heard that actually Mesmer would actually do performances like that just for fun.
I mean that makes sense.
Got to make a living somehow.
But were they X-rated?
They should be. Mesmer?
Maybe at the time. I feel like X-rated back then would have been like
show an ankle.
PG.
Yeah. And then have you heard of the Fox sisters?
The Fox sisters?
Yeah.
No.
Fox.
Fox. Okay.
Not the Fox. The Fox.
I was thinking like Was that in Austin Powers and Goldmember? That kind of racist little segment.
I don't know if I've seen Goldmember.
It's not a great one.
Okay. That's the one where the Dutch, they make fun of the Dutch. Mm-hmm. That didn't help me out.
Is that why you didn't watch it?
Well, it didn't help me out in high school. I was a Dutch kid, and they're like, oh, you're a Dutch, isn't that funny?
Was it funny?
Yeah, it was pretty funny.
Okay, well, just...
I don't even think that came out when I was in high school. I think I was already in college. Okay, so...
They were just making fun of you because you were Dutch. Okay.
The Fox sisters were these three sisters,
yep.
Kate, Margaret, and Leah. Mm-hmm. It started really with Kate and Margaret when they were 12 and 15 years old in a town that used to exist called Hydesville, New York.
Doesn't exist anymore?
What
happened to it?
I don't know. Just times change. People move away. Probably lost their...
Wait, it's called Hydesville?
Hydesville.
Maybe they went into hiding.
Hiding. Yep.
We solved the mystery.
We solved it. But yeah, they moved into this farmhouse. There was already rumors that they were... that it was haunted, and then the parents started hearing like knocking at night and like weird sounds at night. So they would, and then eventually the sisters said that they would contact the spirits, and people around would get like really excited about this, and like they would hold seances and stuff. And this Quaker group nearby really liked them and really supported them.
Oh, really?
Which I thought was really strange, but yeah, they because I always thought that like mediums were kind of the opposite of Christianity, but I guess there's a lot of things that tie in where it's like that levels of thing. Mm-hmm. Like you want to help them pass on to heaven, and it's like more about like not understanding the afterlife than...
I wonder how much of like seances were just out of boredom.
Yeah.
They didn't have anything to do at night, so it's just like, all right, well, we could go to bed.
Yeah. Well, and then they worked out. So they worked out a way to like communicate with this guy where mm-hmm. he would like tap once for yes and once for no, and then or twice for no or whatever. They worked out a system.
One for yes, one for no.
And basically he said he was murdered in this house years ago. And so they ended up like in this town finding the person who used to live there, and he was basically shunned because everybody thought he was a murderer just because of this. And years later the girls said that what they would do is they would tie an apple to a string when they went to bed.
Okay.
And then they would like have a little thing, like they would hang it off the end of the bed. So their parents would like come in and they'd still hear the tapping, but it was just because they were moving their toes. And as they were moving their toes, the apple would hit up and down on the ground. And then eventually, so they were sent out of the house because it was like, oh, this place is haunted. So they were sent to live with the brother and sister. And then so they ended up like partnering with the one sister. And so the three of them became these really famous mediums. And what eventually they would do is, instead of using external things to make the tapping noises, they really practice like cracking their knuckles in their toes and in their hands
to make extra noises.
So they would say that these were the ghosts communicating with them.
So these guys were like right on board with the whole conning side of this then.
Oh yeah. So like, and all these mediums that came after. So in New York, in
while you're looking,
1849.
Go ahead.
Yeah, they did their first like big public performance, and that's really what started the whole movement. And then just multiple mediums came out after and had multiple like different ways of doing these seances and things like that. Yeah. So what were you going to say, sorry?
I was going to say, it always seems to be that ghosts are either someone who was murdered or like died in a weird accident.
Yeah.
And I don't really get why that would be. I know people say it's something like unfinished business or something.
Yeah.
But
probably just a better story.
Yeah, but I mean at the same time, wouldn't you just I mean if you're thinking of like from a religious context, wouldn't they just
Go to heaven? Or hell? Yeah.
Is this just like God being lazy?
Yeah.
Like I don't really understand why.
Know.
Like why do they need to have this extra
Was the angel
step?
of death like taking the day off?
And he's just like, you know what? I don't like murdered people.
Yeah.
They're always whining about it.
Always whining like, I gotta catch my killer.
Or maybe it's I don't know, maybe the killer's like already there or something like that.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, we don't want to have that awkward... You're like, oh, sorry, I killed you.
Yeah, it's like, hey, sorry about that.
You never hear about like just ghosts who are just old people who died or something, and
It's always like a young person who died of an illness or was murdered, or like an older person who was murdered or whatever. Ooh.
Sorry.
All right, so yeah, they became well-known mediums eventually, because they were still teenagers at the time when this started. They were kind of celebrities, and it was kind of like that Drew Barrymore thing where they started drinking like way too young, and the two girls became like, they were like Kate and Margaret, the younger ones,
Like Mary Kate and Ashley.
Yeah. They were very, like, they kind of used drinking as a crutch, like, their whole life.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of what eventually caused the falling out with their older sister, who was pulling a lot of the strings. And that's when they were paid $1,500 by a newspaper to divulge all their secrets.
Oh,
so in the
okay.
1880s, when they were, like, older women, they went on stage in front of 2,000 people and just showed how they did everything.
So
they had doctors come up and like confirm all this stuff and just showed all the tricks and just told stories about,
so they kind of sold their story.
Yeah.
It's a very common thing that happens in show business.
Yeah, it's true. One of them tried to get back into it after
after she gave away all the secrets.
Like 10 years later she was broke and she's like, I'll try this again.
Well, I mean, in a way that's kind of what like Penn and Teller do, right?
Yeah.
They show you how the trick works.
Yeah.
But they do it in a fun way.
Yeah, exactly.
And then they keep
That's what
going
she
back.
should have done.
That's what she should have done.
Yeah.
She should have pulled a P&T.
Yeah, and you could probably make a lot of money doing that. Like, hey,
down in LV.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. There's a quote I liked. I think it was Margaret. I didn't write down who said it. One of them said, "A great many people, when they hear the rapping, imagine at once that the spirits are touching them. It's a very common delusion. Some very wealthy people came to see me some years ago when I lived in 42nd Street and did some rapping for them. I made the spirits rap on the chair, and one of the ladies cried out, 'I feel the spirit tapping on my shoulder.' Of course, it was pure imagination." So there's a lot of like...
like in Willy Wonka.
Yes.
Pure imagination.
Yeah. Come with me and you'll see. And yeah.
In a world of pure imagination.
And then, it started out... There's just a lot of mediums. It was also a really good job for women who didn't have somebody to support them because they couldn't get a lot of jobs in other areas. So it was just a way for them to make money.
Yeah.
Sometimes a lot of money. Because it was like one of the few professions they could get into was being a medium.
When do you think the whole idea of police enlisting mediums to help with cases, like do they actually, are there, I'm sure there are at least a few cases where it's happened.
Yeah.
But
I don't know.
When did that start?
I don't know. It's scary that they do that. There was probably some of that at this point. Like, I'm sure it was almost right away.
Yeah.
Like, what's her name? One of the crazy, like, TV psychics. She was on some talk show, and this couple was asking, like, what happened to our daughter? And they're like, our daughter was murdered, and we don't know how, or something like that. And then she's like, she was shot. They're like, what? No, she drowned. Like, I just got this image that she was shot. She said it's like so quickly because I think she thought they were saying that they still haven't found the body or whatever.
Oh, so she was just... But
they were saying like they didn't know who did it. And so she was immediately like, she was shot. It's like, no, we know she drowned. We just don't know who did it. And it was like, there's a lot of, if you go on YouTube, you can just find so many psychic fails like that where it's like, and it's scary that the police use... Because I've heard, other cases of just it really throwing them off track.
Oh, well, totally. Because it's all... I mean, you may as well just ask a random person.
Yeah,
just like, hey, where do you think this dead person is? Like, I don't know. Probably check behind the old Anderson house.
Exactly.
It's just as effective.
Yeah. Some tricks. So some tricks that mediums would use. They would have this thing called a trumpet.
Did they have any treats?
That's a good question.
I mean, you said it was Halloween.
Yeah.
Trick
and treat.
Or treat. You don't say trick and treat, do you?
No. That'd be...
Is that asking too much from the house that you go to?
No, I don't think so.
You don't think so?
No, I think you just knock on the door, trick and treat. And
all right, we should start that.
Show them a
magic
guys. Trick.
Hashtag trick and treat. We're making sure that you get more bang for your buck.
More bang for your buck.
More dollar for your bang.
Yeah.
When you go to a house, ask for it by name, trick and treat.
Trick and treat, yeah.
And if they don't give you both?
A family member of mine once went to get a prescription for Viagra. And the doctor said, you get more bang for your buck with this one. And then he couldn't stop laughing.
The doctor?
The doctor said that. He's like, wrote a prescription. He's like, you get more bang for your buck with this one. So
that's
which made me laugh.
I mean, you do.
You do, yeah. All right, yeah. So they have this thing called a trumpet. It was basically like a telescope type thing, like a
trumpet.
Like a trumpet, but it would it's just like a tube, kind of like a what is that thing they blow at the
vuvuzela?
Like kind of like that.
Or
but
is it vuvuzela or vuvuzela? I can't remember.
It's both.
It's both?
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense.
I don't know. But
Come on, guys. Pick your pronunciation.
Yeah.
Wishy-washy language.
All up and down the streets.
All over.
Yeah. So it was like this collapsible thing, right? And
telescopic even.
Telescopic, yes. And what they would do is they would hold it up to your ear, and then you, like, when the lights are off, you're doing the seance, and you would hear the whispering of the ghost.
Oh, like when you hear the ocean in a conch.
Yeah.
Conch?
Yeah.
In a shell, when you put a shell to your ear.
But so usually it was either the person, the medium, is a ventriloquist.
Okay. Oh.
Or...
They're creepy. Mm-hmm. Jeff Dunham.
Or yeah, it's like Jeff Dunham. Or there's just an accomplice in the other room, and then
sense.
they whisper, and you can hear it better because you have the thing. But having this in the room was also a really handy way to do like sleight of hand things. So what they would do is, like one option would be that they would be bound, right, and then they would just get out of their binds, and like because they were all like. They were doing like escape artist stuff,
kind of stuff,
and then they would have one hand free to use this to like tap somebody on the shoulder when it's dark out, or like make noise on the ground with it, like scratching noise against the floor or things like that. One method I saw on YouTube was they would have two people beside you, and then they get one person to grab your wrist, and then you would grab the other person's wrist with your hand or whatever. But then you just you would be like this, right? But then you would do there would be some commotion because of a ghost or whatever, and then you would make it so that you were holding, they were holding the same wrist that you were holding the other person, so they were only holding onto one hand and you had one hand free.
Yeah.
So then you would use that trumpet to like, there was one example where somebody had drowned, so they had a bucket of water underneath, and they like actually went down and like blew into the trumpet into the water, so it sounded like water, and like whispered "help me," which is like so creepy. And then like just different things like that, using this trumpet as like a method to trick people.
I think it's really funny that they have this multi-purpose trumpet to scare people.
Yeah. And they would also use other things like a stick or whatever, just to like reach across the table, or because this was all done like they would lower the lights super low, or like just have one candle or no candles at all, and everything would be happening in the dark. So it's like it just adds to that creepiness of it, right?
I always find that funny, is that all this stuff has to happen in the dark.
Yeah.
It's like if for whatever reason these things were real, and you could interact with them, I think it's just as likely that you would be able to do it in the light.
Yeah, exactly.
There's absolutely no reason for it to be dark, other than for you to be able to fuck with people.
Yeah, exactly.
Is because you can't see what they're doing.
Yeah.
You're a lot more suggestible.
Yeah.
You're going to see things out of your peripheral vision and ascribe it to whatever they tell you to ascribe it to.
Yeah, but they would say things like, that the ghosts need the darkness in order to communicate, and just make up things so that it's...
Well, there's always a narrative to it as well.
Exactly.
And once there's a narrative to it, our brains are automatically going to start filling in the blanks in that narrative.
Yeah, exactly.
And you're going to start thinking, well, maybe that's the little girl from before.
Yeah.
It's like, no.
No,
it's just your brain.
Yeah. And another one was Ectoplasm. So, you know, from Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
And it would be like...
ghost cum.
Yeah. But they would actually use like just satin or something like that.
Satin?
It wouldn't even be like liquid.
Oh, it would just be fabric?
Like a piece of fabric. Like sometimes they would find different like liquid things, but usually it would just be like a piece of fabric and just how they rub it across you or whatever.
Or like a bowl of spaghetti that they say is brains, or like
or
peeled grapes.
And then they would also put like pictures sometimes in it, so that it was super dark, but you would like see like an image. They would just cut out a picture from the newspaper, and like they would say that their image is coming across in this ectoplasm, but it's just a picture covered in cloth.
That's another thing when they would where people used to say like, oh, you'd see a ghost in the photos, but
Yeah.
it's just like, no, it's
It's
just
a
the way
speck of dust. Yeah.
it's no, sometimes the way that the photos would develop, or they
Oh,
would
yeah,
take,
like double
it
exposure.
would double
Yeah.
exposure to it,
Yeah.
so you would have like an old photo of something else in it, and it
Yeah.
would look like. And you could buy disposable cameras that just would do that, where
Yeah.
they would have like ghost images on the
Yeah, that's
on the
right.
photos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And the rapping was, we talked about that, but that was a popular one where you just like tap your foot and it's like, that's a ghost.
Yeah.
Or, like find other ways to like just make noises around the room.
Sure, in a seance, it's a ghost. At a jazz club, it's just some jerk with a soul patch,
Yeah, exactly.
toe tapping.
Yeah.
Yep.
Should I shave everything and then just keep my soul patch?
Have a really, really long one.
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be very gross. I mean, you could do it.
Yeah. But there was also skeptics the whole way through. There was always people calling them out.
Thankfully.
Yeah. The toe cracking one was called out almost immediately.
Yep.
That didn't stop them from doing it for another 40 years, but
I mean, if you can get away doing it for 40 years,
Yeah.
even if you have skeptics,
yeah,
I guess if they're making
just
money,
might
right?
as well do it.
Yeah.
And then eventually Houdini was one of the biggest skeptics, and that's something that magicians have kind of kept that tradition going. So he'd always call out different mediums and stuff like that. He went to a bunch of them China. I think at first there was an actual curiosity. He kind of wanted to talk to his mother, who passed away.
Yeah.
He was very close with.
I think that's another reason why some magicians anyway, are very against it, because they feel that it's just people taking advantage of.
Yeah, because he knew all the
people.
tricks of the trade, and
Yeah,
he would just see it.
You're exploiting people's emotions and connections to dead loved ones in order
Yeah.
to make a quick buck.
Yeah, and you know how Houdini died, right?
I thought he just disappeared.
He was punched in the stomach. So he used to do a
Oh
trick
yes,
where
I did know this. Yes.
Yeah, he
Where
would like tense up his muscles, and then somebody
he would always like deflect it.
yeah.
Too. Yeah, and then someone just did it.
he wasn't ready, and his appendix burst.
Yeah,
Yeah.
internal bleeding.
Yeah,
was it?
but he died on Halloween,
Oh,
and
yeah?
so every year his wife would hold a séance, and
How mad do you think he was?
no, he set this up. So he gave her a password.
Oh, okay.
That if he ever died, he would say this password to her, so she knew it was him, and it was just a way to debunk it. So she would do a seance every year, and eventually somebody got the password, but then she figured out that it was because they had just deduced it.
They wrote it down somewhere and just left
was
it.
like, because it was like the name of their favorite song, and then so eventually somebody did figure it out. But she's like, at first she's like, yeah, I think it might have been, and then she's like, no.
It's kind of like when you go to your grandparents' house and they have all their passwords for all their accounts written down
Yeah,
on like
a sticky
post-it
note.
notes.
Yeah.
Right beside the computer. It's like, I don't know how they got into my account. It's like, well,
Right there.
did you let them in the house?
But and then Sir Arthur Conan Doyle was kind of the opposite.
Oh.
Yeah, the author of
Sherlock.
Sherlock Holmes and eventually Sherlock Gnomes. He was a big proponent of spiritualism. Thought it was like the next step in science or whatever.
That doesn't make any sense.
No, I know. But yeah, so I was watching the show Lore.
Yep.
And they played. So they had a seance after he died, and it was recorded, like him coming back and being like, "Yeah, this is me." But it sounded so much like he just recorded it beforehand. Like it was like, "It is I, Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, and I wish to say good luck." I'll find the actual thing, but
Go. They go. The great divine. Help each one of you, and also take care of my boy and my job wife too. God help our movement forward. Let your watchword be onward and forward. Is the wish of Arthur Conan Doyle.
it's like,
Why do ghosts always have to sound so declamatory in the way they speak?
that's a good question.
Why does it always have to be like, I am the ghost? Why can't they just be like, hey guys, I'm some dead guy.
And some dead guy, yeah.
Yeah. Got hit by a ice cream truck. So,
Yeah, why don't they talk like they would in real life?
Yeah.
Maybe it's just harder to speak, so you really got to concentrate, right? So you're like,
I guess maybe.
or maybe they just want to be spooky.
Do ghosts usually speak? I mean, they always, for some
movies.
reason, they're always like, help me, or
Yeah.
get out.
Yeah.
It's like, why?
Yeah, exactly. It's always like these simple phrases. That...
Yeah, I mean, they should have schools for dead ghost children to learn their grammar, learn phonics, get their ghost GED, their GGED.
Their ghost, yeah. Did I mention they still hold the seances for Houdini every Halloween?
They still do.
They still do.
Like, is it like a Rocky Horror Picture kind of thing?
Yeah,
now?
I think it's just
people
kind
just
of
do
tradition.
it for fun.
Yeah, and it's like just other magicians and stuff will do it, and it's just like a lot of fun. So mediums are still a thing. They're still around.
Yep.
There's one in Manhattan Medium. That's a show. There's a lot of reality shows about these mediums, a lot of ghost hunting shows with psychics and mediums and things like that on them. It's still just, they're still using the old tricks and finding new tricks, and it's great.
Now they're using the magic of television.
Yeah, cold reading's a big one too, where you just kind of throw out things and see what hits, and
it's like a spoken word horoscope kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
You're tailoring it to the individual.
Yeah.
People are so easily duped.
Any questions right now?
Well, it is Halloween.
Yeah.
We talked about mediums.
Yeah.
Do you notice that every psychic seems to have the same sign outside their shop?
Do they get a deal on it?
You know what? Someone probably made the signs in the 80s.
Yeah.
They made so many of them.
Yeah.
And they're just giving them away.
I was walking along and
that wasn't really a question. I'm sorry.
But sometimes we'll have like venues and stuff set up at Trinity Bellwoods or different parks in Toronto, and they had the psychic set up with like a little booth and stuff there. And I was walking through, and this guy goes up to the psychic, and he's like, "Have you seen a lighter kicking around here?" And I was like, "That's what you're using her powers for?" Hit the drop.
Can't you see you're not making Christianity better? You're just making rock and roll worse.
We got our second returning champion. Champion is an ironic name because that was one of his songs. But Carmen's back. Remember Carmen?
Carmen's back
From
baby.
Who's in the House?
Yeah.
This is a song called A Witch's Invitation.
Oh.
So basically, this is less of a song, more like there was music playing and he talked over it.
Okay,
but kind of he had his Carmen voice, and
kind of like Cake, like when they sing, and he's going the distance. Not really.
He's going for speed.
Not really singing, but it's still a song.
Yeah, exactly. Sorry, I'm just amazed by these lyrics.
All right, well, let's hear them.
Share them. My mind. What?
Share them with the class, Trev.
Okay. I'm just gonna start. It's kind of in the middle of the song, but I don't know how long it'll go. But we'll try to get there.
All right. Do you want me to be silent for this, or should I?
Interrupt anytime you want.
Okay.
So the basic premise is he was a small town church goer, and
a small town girl.
He was invited to see a witch, but
Living
he's
in
like, I don't want to go see a witch. And then the spirit of the Lord told him he needed to visit this witch, and I think he's trying to tell us it's a true story.
Okay.
His house was filled with every occultic symbol you could fathom, hanging pentagrams and horoscope signs, a Ouija board, and Dungeons and Dragons game set on the table.
Wait a minute, Dungeons and Dragons. Okay.
Evil occult.
Okay.
A crystal ball with an incandescent shine.
So it was probably just a big light bulb.
Yeah. Then graciously he handed me some steaming herbal tea. Its presence caused my memory to jog. I thought of every horror flick I'd seen when I was a kid and thought, man, if you drink this stuff next day, you'll be a frog.
Oh, geez. The dangers of herbal tea.
Scary. That's scary shit. Then he led me to a high-backed chair as he meticulously began to unfold his scenario with evil patience. I was given a giant leather-bound book jammed with newspaper clippings, thus the reason for the witch's invitation. With eagerness, he pointed to each article with pride. I healed this woman through a Babylonian chant. You see this man, I cured him with performing druid worship, and I was paid to curse this man with AIDS by his aunt. On and on, page after page, delightfully he flaunted each incident for an hour without a breath. He said, "Do you realize through my understanding of the dark regions that I can make you rich or even curse someone to death?" I sat literally intimidated by his immensity and demon power, while his face shone with satanic arrogant bliss. Then placing his hands on the arms of my chair and leaning up to my face, he said, "What can your God do to compare with this?" And then he goes on a rant about.
I think the funny part about it is up until the part where he's giving someone's nephew AIDS.
Yeah,
it just seems like you're visiting a nice grandma's house.
Yeah,
high back chairs. You have herbal tea.
Yeah,
it's dimly lit. Probably smells like incense or something, some old stank.
Yeah, I love how it's like just all the satanic panic fear. Maybe I should have used this for if we do a satanic panic episode, but like satanic, it's just all the fears that everybody had about like the occult and witches and all that stuff. It was just like
if we do a satanic panic one, we should probably talk about like the Church of Satan and those as well. With
exactly.
I think it'd be good,
like the differences of what they feared versus what actually occurred and stuff. Yeah,
I think it's really funny that someone would hire a witch to give someone AIDS.
Yeah,
that seems like a very.
There's other ways. Yeah,
I think if you were going to a witch, you'd want something a little more like witch-like for them to do.
Because that was another just big fear in the 80s too of
was AIDS,
was AIDS, and especially in the Christian circles, it was like, I don't know if you've seen that Pat Robertson clip where he thought that people in New York City would shake your hands and
you would get AIDS.
They would have a ring with a needle in it, and they would give you AIDS.
That's fucked. Well, did it? Were there were definitely people who thought that AIDS was punishment.
Punishment, yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
From God or whatever.
Yeah.
Which is.
Yeah.
We're you know what? Just
yeah. All right. I guess this has been spiritualism.
We really mostly talked about mediums today.
Yeah, that's
so
true.
There's so much more about spiritualism that I think we can come back to.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Maybe next Halloween or maybe sooner.
Maybe sooner. Maybe later.
Maybe Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving.
It's like Halloween too.
It's a lot of similarities.
Yeah. There's a cornucopia. There's funny hats.
We eat turkey.
Yeah, everyone loves Halloween turkey. Usually they're dipped in caramel though, and on a stick.
That's true. Yeah.
Caramel turkey.
Caramel turkeys. Hashtag caramel turkeys if you like this episode.
Caramel turkeys, trick and treat. Believe it or not.
Believe it or not, rate us on iTunes. Leave a comment to tell us how we were wrong. Try not to be angry.
I mean, be a little angry.
You can be angry. That's
you know
fine.
what? It's fine if you get a little angry.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's nice to be pushed outside of your comfort zone.
Yeah.
And, you have to confront these things sometimes. And if you can give us proof that your psychic found your keys, we'd love to hear it.
We'd love to hear that too.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, guys.
Work, Sky Moon.